Okay, so anyone watching the video, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in. And as you've probably worked out when we do the video, is that you get to see a little bit extra that's not on the podcast. Usually, as I say, normally cut dumb shit out that I say on the podcast. My guest usually does not say anything too inappropriate, except maybe today. So, okay, I'm going to do my intro and we'll take it from there. Everything is recording. Great. Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of Podiatry Legends podcast designed to help you feel, see, and think differently about the podiatry profession. With me today is another legend who is not a podiatrist. His name is Ben Lindsay, and he is a multi-award-winning biomedical engineer, had to make sure I said that right, and co-inventor of Solushin medical device, which is all about or used for treating shin splints. So we're going to talk a lot about shin splints today because Ben is an expert. And Ben, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Tyson. Yeah, very excited to be here. You're going to be my first big podcast.
Is it? The first one. This is a good one to start on.
Yeah, I know. I've been told by far too many podiatrists to count that this is the podcast to get on. So
it is.
Here I am.
And I want to point out, anyone who's not watching the video, both of us have awesome haircuts. And Ben sent me this shirt. Some people may have seen it on Facebook because I posted the photo, and it basically is saying what's worse than hair loss, shin splints. So when I got that shirt, when I got back from my road trip, I thought it was bloody excellent. So thanks for that.
That's right. You just have to bring it back to reality.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot worse things than having the globe out.
So okay, let's just dig straight into it. With shin splints, you said there's a lot of confusion around. So we'll talk about the solution, the product that you have invented, and a bit more about your background and how you got there. But you said there's a lot of confusion with podiatrists around shin splints. Why is that? I
wouldn't say rather confusion with podiatrists. I think it's confusion with the patients. So as soon as they Google shin pain, it's shin splints. And I think the most common that I've seen in clinic, and the injuries, the solution was designed to treat medial tibial stress syndrome. But as soon as a patient uses Dr. Google, we start bringing in things like anterior shin pain, so tibant pain, posterior tibialis tendonitis, all those, anything basically between the knee and the ankle on the front, like near the shin bone. A patient will come in, Dr. Google, and say they've got shin splints, and it still requires, I don't think it's, and pretty much every podiatrist I've spoken to agrees it's not a thorough diagnosis. There's a lot more to dive into. I think, Australian podiatrists seem to know what they're doing. It's just the patients that get the confusion. So
okay. Yeah, it's better than walking in saying, I think I've got a tumor.
Yeah. Well, I know I once had a thumb twitch, and then I Dr. Googled that, and I had epilepsy. So
Now my daughter's 16, and she jokingly always says, it doesn't matter what's going on. I've got a headache. It's probably a tumor. Oh, my shoulder sore. It's probably a tumor.
Yeah.
So and I think it's from the Arnie Schwarzenegger movie.
Yeah.
Kindergarten Cop. That was actually from. If you have not seen it.
Are you not game enough to mimic Schwarzenegger?
No, I've got some friends that do really, really good impersonations. Yeah. But I do it. If I've had a few drinks, I'll do it. But I'm completely sober. So, and the people listening to this don't need to hear that rubbish.
Yeah.
So, with how did you get involved in the whole research of shin splints? Because your background was swimming, and you were a frigging good swimmer. You swam in the national titles. You won medals.
Yep. So I was a bronze and silver medalist.
Oh yeah, what was that?
I was a bronze and silver medalist in the 50 butterfly at the national titles, and won plenty of relay medals. But yeah, I just, like most swimmers, had shoulder problems. So my swimming career ended because I had slap tears in my shoulders. I only got one operated on, so the right. And then a lot of people seem surprised. There's a lot of cross training in swimming, and it's because the shoulders are, in one way, not designed, I think, for swimming to such a degree. So there's a lot of lower body cross training for cardio, and that's,
especially
how a lot
butterfly.
of swimmers get injured. Yeah.
Like I watch butterfly, and I think, who on earth came up with that and then decided this would be something we can, to me, to be like, you've got the 100 meters. Now let's do the 100 meters backwards.
Yeah.
And then let's do the 100 meters sideways.
Yeah.
The butterfly just seems like one of those things. Someone did this crazy stroke one day and went, wow, that looks really cool. What is it? I'm calling it the butterfly. Do you want to challenge me in it? And it just took off from there.
It's definitely fatiguing. It's a tough one. You're basically just doing, I don't know, like I did a lot of freestyle sprinting as well, and you just don't get the same fatigue where, you know, in freestyle you kind of fall apart. In butterfly, if you fall apart, you don't move. You start sinking and drowning, and there's nothing you can do. And if you're fortunate enough to be filmed, I'm sure there's a montage of last 15 meters of butterfly events.
Yeah, and there'd be no hiding too, because it's not as though you're doing butterfly and all of a sudden you can go, oh, okay, I'm just gonna do breaststroke to the end of the pool.
No,
you have to keep going.
Yeah, and it does. If you ever want to go and watch some funny event, it's the last 15 meters of the 200 meter butterfly. So I never was a good 200 meter butterflyer. I was definitely a sprinter, but I would have been one of them if it was ever filmed. It's this pathetic collapse in the last 15. You've kind of get to 175. You've given it all you've got, and then you're 25 meters of just mental strength, and the mind's willing.
Is it sort of like at that point? Is it really just your head bobbing up and down out of the water? And
you're almost standing up.
Yeah. So your body, your body actually sinks down, and you're just standing up.
Definitely. Yeah, particularly if you don't have all the flexibility and strength, your whole body just starts sinking, and you're swimming uphill, and it's just a nightmare. It's I don't know. You might be able to hear from the stands like all the struggling to breathe. But
what you're saying then is with swimming, there's a lot of cross training.
Yeah.
So taking the cross training then meant there's cycling, running. And is it through running that did you develop shin pain yourself?
Yep, definitely. So I used to train over in Perth. That's where I started swimming. I'm now in Sydney. My coach at the time took us on this boot camp down to Margaret River, and he made us do these returns along the beach where we filled up this oil barrel with sand and carried it back. And I just remember I was about 30 minutes into what was meant to be a 4-5 hour challenge, and both my shins were just on fire. And then so many of the other swimmers were as well. And that was my first experience, and I remember it vividly, and I just couldn't shake it then. So we did all we would do 2 to 3 sessions a week before training of skipping, running around the pool, warming up, doing a bit of cardio. You know, we'd do boxing, we'd do spin cycle. You know, I didn't really ever have pain in the spin cycling side of things, but any time I was on my legs outside of the pool, you know, I just couldn't shake it. And the worst thing was I'd just get put on the bike, stationary bike even more. We would do more stationary bike work, you know, particularly when I moved to Sydney, we would have to do it in a hot room. So, you know, that was my hate for it. But I think my colleague, Will McNamara, he was a national finalist runner. And for him, you know, for me, I just got put in a warm room on a bike and got bored. For him, it was a season ruiner because he was a runner. So it would ruin his whole season. He couldn't train. And, you know, while I had the tickle of shin pain, he really had it kind of affect things quite badly.
Yeah, I've only ever had issues with it once, and it was, I think it was the second last rugby union season that I played.
Yeah.
And had it for probably most of the season, and very, very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
To the point where you just, it gets a certain point, you just end up sitting down, and the strap would run out the magic sponge.
Yeah.
And would say, have you hurt yourself? I go, no, I just had to get off my legs. Just give me a minute and I'll get back up again.
I know one of the funniest things I've seen in the last 6 months is the change in perception, because it can be for some people just this slight tickle, and there's this, you know, your teammates being weak kind of idea. If your teammates saying, I've got shin splints, and they're backing off, because it can be a very minor, you know, sensation. So it's hard to grasp, and some people have only ever had that. But then I remember I met James Magnuson, the other swimmer, he used them when he was training for SAS Australia. He was hobbling Like his were so bad. And this guy's like, he's, Olympic medalist, world champ. This guy's an animal at training. He was an animal in all his CrossFit stuff. He's not a weak person mentally or physically, and he's hobbling around like this. It can be debilitating as well. It can really kind of ruin your day.
So, and when podiatrists, for example, are talking about the term shin splints,
yep.
And I was under the belief that when I went through, they used to talk about 3 types.
Yep.
And a true shin splint was actually a fracture in the bone.
Yeah. So I think under MRI, they grade it, I believe. I can't remember the grading terminology. There was 4 grades. The last grade is when it's a full stress response, so stress fracture.
Yeah.
The interesting thing that I've seen actually now talking to about 150, 200 clinics is no one in clinic has actually seen someone come in with MTSS before it's been a stress fracture. They've just got the periostitis and the inflammation, so the initial stress response.
Yeah.
No one's actually witnessed in person it progress yet to a stress fracture. So either that means everyone's doing a great job of treatment, even when the patients aren't being, compliant, or there's still a bit of, unknown with the injury. And I think, if you're really diving into it, MTSS is still a bit, so medial tibial stress syndrome, which that's what I mean when I say shin splints.
Yeah.
It is a very kind of poorly understood injury at the moment, and there's a lot more research that I think needs to be done.
Yeah. What was really cool about sorry, what was really cool about that is when I was at university, so I've always been interested about shin splints.
Yeah.
Only because when we were at university in my final year, we actually had a patient that came in and had brought in x-rays. It had 9 stress fractures in one leg and 7 stress fractures in the other leg.
Yeah.
And he was a professional aerobics instructor. So he was a happy clapper, did his grapevines, all that sort of thing back in the day. And was doing ridiculous, 7 or 8 classes a day.
Yeah.
Is how he made his money.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying, I'm in that much pain. And we go, and so you should be. He goes, I can't stop. And he asked her, what should I do? And we said, stop. But I don't know I don't know what happened, because it's like at university, you never get to follow through the patients over a period of time. And it was right towards the end of my final year. And they're the only true stress fractures I've ever seen.
I think so the solution I wouldn't use for a stress fracture, I think that's surpassed what we can help with. That's a whole different ball game. That's definitely a season ruiner. If you don't have a stress fracture quite yet, and you've just got the inflammatory responses, it's something you can get on top of. Unfortunately, so Will and I both met at the AIS. Even at that level, the best option is rest, or was rest at the time. And it's just, for a stress fracture, I can understand it, but for this, this injury, which can be very minor all the way through to a bit like quite severe, depending on the patient.
Yeah.
You can understand why patients don't rest as much as they should. If you've got an athlete there who's training for something, you tell them, all right, your shin's sore, time to back off, time to relax, time to ice, rest, take 2 weeks off. I don't think they're going to respond very well to that. I think they might just go, all right, well, it's not broken yet.
But I think it's that addictive personality in people as well. Yeah. It's like the person that smokes that's been told you're starting to get emphysema, yet they keep smoking.
Yeah.
Well, so I don't have full on emphysema right now. Or the person who is overweight and they may have a slight heart issue, yet they're still eating that piece of chocolate cake.
Yeah.
Because it becomes such a habit of what they do. I think with athletes, when they have certain injuries, and a habit of what they do is they think, I will work through this one. I've done it before with other injuries, so therefore this one shouldn't be any different.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. And
you've probably done it yourself.
Yeah, did it with my shoulders.
How'd that work out?
One I just left alone. The one with the op, that had the op seems to be the one that causes all the niggles still. I remember I would rock up to training an hour before every session just to do my prehab on my shoulders. It's the same in running as it is swimming. You've got athletes showing up an hour and a half before training just so they can train. So they're doing their own things by themselves just to train for 2 hours. So they're, it becomes a 7-hour a day thing, if you're training twice, and you still just can't stay on top of it without resting. And like you said, you're doing everything you can to keep training. You try and de-risk it, you try and do your best. All you're trying to do is avoid losing momentum in your season. And I think honestly, I do believe the gold standard in treatment for MTSS prior to the Solution was just load management and strengthening, so helping the athlete deload and reload up to address the bone stress response. But, coming from an athlete's perspective, you can understand why the RCTs and why the studies on load management can be a bit hit and miss. And it's not because of the podiatrist or the clinician prescribing it. In my belief, having the athlete's perspective, it's the athlete not complying to it and pushing through and trying to get there, and it just causes issue after issue. So I think you're right with that addictive personality.
Oh, I think very much so. I even see it like at Muay Thai now. Sore shins is a common thing.
Yep.
And Muay Thai, because you're even when you're just messing around, you will accidentally catch someone's elbow or something like that. So, but that's more of an impact type shin. But they also, a lot of the guys who take a lot more serious do a lot of the road running, and I hear them in there complaining about shin soreness all the time. So, getting back to you, so you had the problem yourself, but you were also a bit of an inventor. So, did you think that, I'm going to find a solution for this?
Yep. Good pun. I know.
Yeah, that was terrible.
No, so the way it actually happened was Will and Rosa, who's a medical product designer. So it's the three of us. Rosa was a gymnast. We're all at different universities, but we all lived on campus at the University of Sydney. So you didn't have to be at the University of Sydney to live there.
Yeah.
And someone just I kind of knew Will, didn't know Rosa at all, kind of highlighted the fact that Ben's studying biomedical engineering. He's trying to invent something. Will he was studying medicine. He's now unaccredited orthopedic registrar. So he's going well. Rosa's was studying medical product design. And, we all kind of sat down and went, what's an injury we've all had that sucks? And it was like, Will put his hand up straight away. He's like, shin splints. And then, obviously I put my hand up and I was like, shoulders. And then I was like, hey, hang on. I think I had that injury and Rosa had that injury. So we thought, we kind of mapped it out. We spoke to a lot of athletes. We spoke to more when we did this program with New South Wales Health. And we just realized that, clinically there's you can get good outcomes, but from an athlete's perspective, and then kind of leading, athletes hate the current treatment option.
Yeah.
There was no short-term kind of positive reinforcement that the treatment was going well. And then it took too long. And I think that's what translated to the poor kind of compliance. And then, as soon as you look at the studies, that's why I think a lot of the treatment methods with MTSS are very hit and miss. And it has nothing to do, in my opinion, with the treatment method. I think it's, compliance or just, it really comes down to the athlete. And I think that was being foregone. So.
Okay, so the three of you put your thinking caps on. You came out with the design. Yep. I'm sure there were multiple design attempts. That failed. So it's like Thomas Edison, was it 10,000 times before he got the light bulb? But he looked at it that he found 9,999 ways how not to make a light bulb.
Yeah.
So I take it you went through a lot of design failures.
Yeah.
The design you have now with the Solushin medical device.
Yeah.
I take it it's working, because otherwise you wouldn't be on here talking about it.
Yeah. No, I think so. Will came up with the hypothesis for the mechanism of action. So it was reducing tension in the soleus by applying counter traction just to the origins of the soleus muscle. So think just a thumb being applied just posterior to the head of the fibula.
Yeah.
Another thumb at the mid-diaphysis of the tibia, and then another thumb at the Achilles tendon, muscular tendinous junction, then a rod along the periostitis, so along that painful area along the border of the tibia. The first design looked like a Greek sandal. I had nothing to do with that. If I'll just say that, I kind of saw
you
it.
okay? You're sort of distancing yourself from that design.
I was like, Greek Roman sandal. It was a bit confusing to use. Our whole thing was no one had tried to treat the injury this way. So the only way we were going to know if the mechanism of action worked was by doing a study on it. So it just was about usability for the design. So even in the RCT we did, the devices, they looked exactly the same as this one here.
Okay, so people who are listening to this, this is why, even if you're listening to the podcast, you need to come over and watch a video every now and then, because this is the visual of what you're about. So explain it. So show it on screen as you're explaining it.
So this one's, it always looks a bit sad when it's not on a leg, I will admit.
It does look sad, yeah.
It does look sad. So this vertical stripe would go down the tibia.
Yep.
Now there's 4 horizontal straps. This isn't a compression sleeve on the inside. This is to protect leg hair and make it easy to slide on. In fact, you don't want it to apply any compression. But what we've got on the straps are, can you see that node there?
Yeah.
So this is for posterior to the head of the fibula. The second strap, there's one at the mid-diaphysis. Third strap at the Achilles tendon muscular tendinous junction. So we know from an ankle ROM study we did that improves dorsiflexion. And there's a rod. So this is a left leg here. There's a rod that sits in the sleeve, which is kind of just on that border there, that the bottom 2 straps apply pressure to.
Okay.
So it's a real simple thing. Now in the RCT, it did not look like this at all. It was pretty ugly. We managed to find a couch manufacturer in Western Sydney who had a sweet spot for startups, and he helped us make all our functional prototypes to put on legs.
That's cool.
So it was really good. And that's actually been the whole journey, was kind of hacking our way through, finding the money and making sure we could pay for stuff. We got told at the start this would cost $2 million to get moving. We did it for 1/10 of that, I think. So just by hacking our way through, meeting people who also wanted to help, who had the injury, and just, all seemed to work out.
So people can order them now through you. If somebody wanted to get one, where do they order it from?
So they can order directly through us, through Solushin.com. There's a wholesale tab there where they can reach out to us.
And I'll spell that so anyone's just listening to this and they want to write it down. SOLUSHIN.
Yep.
Solushin.com.
Yep.
Okay.
And there's also available through Brigitte and DBS for podiatrists. So Brigitte and DBS, scoop this up pretty quick and have been great at helping us out. I think their delivery times are a little better than ours. We're all the same price. So it's really up to you on what you want to do. So,
well, I suppose if you're already ordering stuff, say through Brigitte.
Yeah.
Then, so what about, so that's in Australia. Is it available overseas anywhere?
No, not yet. So because of all the mayhem in Europe, not because of COVID, but the Brexit, where we've been kind of letting that settle before we get it, because it's a registered medical device. It's a class 1 medical device. So before we go through the CE mark and get EMA, so the European Medicines Agency approval to sell it in Europe, we kind of wanted to see what Britain did, because there was talk at one point that Britain wasn't going to pull away from the European Medicines Agency, even though it was pulling away from Europe. We now know that it is, because UK is our biggest market over there in comparison to the other countries at the moment. But then the States, just FDA approval is something we're currently pursuing.
I was going to say that'd be a big market, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think for us, it's about finding the right distributor, because it is a weird thing. It's not a brace.
Yeah.
It doesn't hold your leg rigid at all. It's not an orthotic. It's not changing the biomechanics of the foot. It does improve dorsiflexion through soft tissue work, but it is a kind of new thing. So we do need a distributor over there. So I run around putting it on everyone's legs, and Brigitte and DBS help out there as well. We need a distributor in the States who is going to do that for us as well, because we've got to show people it's a new thing, and it's not what they think it is. I think that's the biggest hurdle we had to cross, and we've managed to start doing that in Australia now.
So did you listen to the episode with Michael Graham over in the States?
The foot and ankle?
No, I'm just looking at it here. It was episode 40, Dr. Michael Graham, the entrepreneurial podiatrist.
Yeah, and he had the vent. What was it called? The for the fluid buildup in the ankle. Was it?
No, well,
that one that
he makes the I should know what it is. Anyway,
yeah,
he makes this.
I forgot as well. I was hoping you remembered.
No, it's a little surgery. He invents surgical implants.
Yep. No, and he looks like Johnny Depp.
Yes, yeah, it looks like Johnny Depp.
So I
super nice guy.
But you sent me down a rabbit hole reading into him quite a lot. I went for a big read into him. So I saw him on LinkedIn. He definitely looks like Johnny Depp. I think I even saw the photo you were talking about of him with Johnny Depp.
Yeah, I know. He's a super nice guy. And he's the sort of guy, though, that I think if you reached out to him and just talked about whether it's who does he use to distribute his product, and that's what the whole idea of this podcast too is, just to bring people together. Yeah.
Well, that'd be awesome. Michael, if he's listening, I'll definitely be reaching out. I think that's the other thing as well. It's always finding, in terms of the right distributor, not just to put it on the legs, but, it's in any industry. If you've got a distributor that someone works with and they like working with them, it's just another big tick in the box. Because you're putting a product that you've invested all your time and money into someone else's hands to sell. So you want to trust them as much as you can.
Yeah. Have you got many contacts over in the States?
Not at the moment. We've just been going through the FDA process, which is a bit tedious. So we've got an authorized representative over there now, so we're not going to be too far off getting it into the States.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, because I know a fair few people over there, so I can give you different names of different people, and to get in touch with them. And they, I say, one person may know somebody else who knows somebody else. So I think that always helps just speed the process up too.
Yep. Our biggest connections over there at the moment are actually orthopedic surgeons because of Will. So he trained at Duke and at, I should know this, Duke and some other university, another good one.
We're on fire with our memory today, aren't we?
So, it's the first week back. I don't know too many people working this week, so we can forgive ourselves.
Okay. So I'll just point that out to everybody. So even though this episode is being released, the release date for this particular episode is the 29th of January. That's the plan.
Yep.
But we're recording this the first week of January there. So everybody's come back from holidays and our brains are still kicking into gear. So that's the excuse we're going to run with.
Yeah, we'll run with that. We'll know all the names by the 29th.
Well, I'll go back in there and edit it, make myself sound good on the podcast. So with the Solushin thing, people can buy it directly from you, from Brigid as well, and DBS. Everyone will have their favorite place.
Yep.
So what's next? Where are you hoping to take the Solushin product? Are you going to develop it further, or are you just waiting to see the results that come back in over the next couple of years?
Well, actually, our whole focus is, so when we sat down and spoke about injuries, we thought about a few other injuries as well that aren't being addressed. Like, our whole thing is we didn't want to beat our chest and come in and say, this is how you use it. Particularly, none of us are podiatrists, right?
Yeah.
So we weren't going to come in and go be like, roar and tell you this is how you use this device. We've actually tried to be quite slow and methodical, which is, if we're looking at branding and things like that, has worked in our favor big time. But if we were talking to other people outside of the injury industry a year ago, they were very against it. They wanted this big, aggressive top-down sales approach. So what we're hoping to do is develop more products. So we've used this to kind of segment out and go, this is an MTSS product. We've been developing our philosophy of how we engage podiatrists, and how we prescribe things in clinic using their feedback. So when I first started telling people how to prescribe the Solushin, it's not too dissimilar to what we're saying now, but it was just slightly off.
Actually, hold the box up for a sec, because on the box there's a picture on the box that people can actually see what it looks like when it's on the leg. So once again, if you're just listening to the podcast, you need to come over and go to my YouTube channel, just Tyson Franklin. There's a whole pile of interesting videos on there.
Yeah. So and the idea is, so patients, obviously, they wear this before or after training. This isn't something they wear when they're running.
Yeah.
But I noticed when we first started selling it, I didn't emphasize enough, for example, in the RCT, we were athletes, so we're not going to use one thing. We knew that going into designing the clinical studies. Athletes don't just take one thing and run with it. So what we did with the RCT was we went, all right, well, what do we know works? We knew load management worked. So that was our placebo, right? So load management, and all the athletes in the study logged all the adjunct therapies they used for the full 6 months in both groups. And then just in the device group, they also had the solution, because that's what we wanted to see. And I noticed when I started showing people at the start, they were like, nah, load management works. I'll be like, I know it works.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is load management for an athlete doesn't have that short-term positive outcome. They don't get pain relief quick. So the solution gives short-term pain relief is one measure, but then with the load management program, it's a faster return to full load in comparison to not using the solution by about 5 times. Was what the RCT
it's combining.
showed.
So it's combining treatments. It's not just relying on one. It's having more than one string in the bow. Yeah,
exactly. We got this corny analogy. It's ridiculous, but it seems to get it across. Load management's the hot dog, in our opinion. So you've got the hot dog. It's the key value add. You don't buy a condiment and eat the condiment without a hot dog. You don't see too many people squirting ketchup in their mouth. So we believe, mustard's even worse, or relish. Yeah. So you've got the hot dog load management. At the moment, you've got, depending on the patient, the different condiments. So you got orthotics, mustard, depending on patient's biomechanics. We know silicone heel razors help reduce the load through the tibia as well, so they can give good short-term outcomes, not just from our own checking out the product, but through all the literature. So that's another condiment. You've got strengthening, and then you've also got the solution. So we like calling the solution, it's French's mustard, just because I like French's mustard. Yeah. So that's the condiment we picked for that. So we don't recommend you prescribe it without load management. You will have an athlete at the end of the season who is not going to do it, right? They're not going to rest. The solution then offers value in the sense of, reducing pain and helping them deload, because it reduces tension through the soleus. So they kind of helps them get through, but that's not how we recommend you use it. We do recommend you go with your existing load management protocol, your strength and conditioning, and then you tag this on. And then what you can expect is a happier patient in the short term, and then in the medium to long term, a quicker return. It's not some magic wand that you wave over their legs.
It's not something, instead, don't do anything else, just put this on and you'll be right. And I actually thought when you were doing the whole hot dog analogy that you're going to say solution was the bun that brings it all together. That's what I was waiting for, but it's a condiment. Okay.
Yeah, it's a condiment. It's a good condiment. It definitely
a high quality condiment.
It's a high quality condiment. So we've only ever had one return on the device, and it was because they opened up the instructions for use and saw don't use on stress fractures. So, and that was the only return we've had. So far it's been received really well. Just it's a new thing though, so I can understand why people are like, oh, I don't know. So for anyone out there who's listening and they're a bit confused on what it is, just reach out and I'll work out how to get one on your leg.
Yeah, can you talk about the price, or not at the moment?
Yeah. So it's the retail price is $199.95, so $200 without the sting. The same sting, no 2 there. And then the wholesale price varies between about $130 to $139 at the moment. So about a $60 to $70 markup for the clinic. I know there's a lot of clinics out there who just send patients to the website to buy it. My tip for them is order it through your clinic, get across it a bit better, use it on the patients, size them up, all those things. It also enables you to use that gap to either help the patient, you can sell it to the patient for whatever you want. So I've noticed a few clinics don't like making a margin, which is fine. But the margin
can we refer to them as the silly clinics? Because you can't buy, you don't go to a clothing store and go, I want to buy that shirt. And they go, no, we don't want to make a profit on that t-shirt.
Yeah.
it's what we do.
Yeah.
And I think if we can buy a retail product at a certain price and you can sell it for more, then you should be selling it for more, because like you said, that profit that you make, will use that then to extra time to put in with the patient.
And I'm telling you, we spoke to 500 runners across, like just under 500 runners across amateur all the way through to Olympic level.
Yeah.
We did a price sensitivity analysis on it. We did an influence to purchase the product analysis on it. We've got all this data. I spoke about it in a CPD thing in a bit more detail. I'm telling you, the reason it's the price point. We picked the price point before we manufactured it. So we determined that this price point meant that it wasn't going to be seen as another compression sleeve that does nothing, which is the experience for a lot of runners. It wasn't going to be too expensive. It is a price that will make some of the runners gawk, like they will go, "Oof, okay." But what that enabled us to do was, the hardest thing about this is making it medical grade, and making it survive a few seasons, recognizing that a lot of MTSS patients, no matter what we do, are going to have recurrence of the injury next season when they take the off season off and eat tons of pizza, get chubby, and then go straight back into it. So we wanted it to last, 3 to 5 seasons. We wanted it to be medical grade. It's a medical device, and a few patients might gawk at it, but $200 is the price to hit. We actually know if it's anything under 150, it loses quite a substantial amount of trust. So we sell it to clinics for 130, knowing that that's the best margin we could do for clinics at the moment.
Yeah.
We spoke to a lot of clinics and they were happy with that. And that's how we reverse engineered it back for manufacturing. And patients will gawk, but it's nothing to be stressed about.
I always look at it this way. If a person is in pain and you have a product that can help them, it's only $200.
Yeah.
It's not a huge amount of money.
No.
And I know there'll be podiatrists listening to this go, "Oh, but you don't understand, my patients." Okay, well, you know what? Change your patients. If your business is built around people who don't want to look after themselves, then that's fine. Then they don't have to. But don't make the decision for them. Tell them how much it is.
Yeah.
Let them say yes or no. And if they say yes, then order it in for them.
And the other thing to tag onto that is, so obviously when we were doing some stuff with New South Wales Health, we had all these different angles coming at us about what's right, what's wrong. So I went and spoke to a bunch of these top clinics, right? So they've got multiple sites, physiotherapists and podiatrists, sports physicians, all of them. And they all credit their growth to this notion of it's so obvious. Like, you're going to go, well, of course, it's just this high quality, quick care for patients. If there's a sports lab, so it's a physio chain, but it's a great example of this. It's in Alexandria in Sydney, right? From memory, not a single one of the physios at the time when it started had any martial arts background, right? But they treated one martial arts athlete quick and well. That martial arts athlete told another person. Now the clinic's super hard to book into. It's just full of martial arts athletes, right? It's the martial arts physiotherapy clinic in Alexandria, for the only reason that they treated the athlete quicker. They provided, they're not the cheapest by any means, right? The price, having more expensive price point, the athlete goes, right, they better be bloody good. And they are good. And I think that's something as well for a lot of pods to learn is, to embrace word of mouth. You give an athlete or a patient quick, high, reliable treatment. It's not obvious. It is obvious. They'll go tell everyone. As soon as someone comes in with tells their mate they've got a foot problem, and that mate's been to your podiatry clinic and they had a good experience, away they go, straight there. No Google search, no Facebook search. It's just, my mate went there, had a good experience. I'm going to go there too.
Well, I had a friend of mine who's an author wrote his latest book's just come out, called "Someone's Got to Be the Most Expensive. Why Not You?"
Yeah.
But also think in reverse. You could write a book saying someone's got to be the cheapest. Don't let it be you.
Yeah.
And I should actually get him on the podcast to talk about that whole concept.
Well, I know in product design, price sensitivity, it's a big thing. We actually devalued the product undervalued the product rather when we started. We thought it was going to cost a certain amount.
Yeah.
We spoke to a bunch of runners, and it was interesting because we asked these 4 questions. It's like, so to treat your shin splints, blah, 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 what would you pay for that? And they would always land around 160, 150. What's too expensive? It was always around 300, 250 to 300. The good point for us ended up being 200 and up, ruled out a big segment. As soon as it was under 130, 120-ish from memory, it started getting anchored on all these other cheap treatment options that have not worked for the athletes or are known not to work for the athletes. So as soon as they see that price, they're like, it's cheap. It's like everything else, it doesn't work. I think, if you're the cheapest person out there, your, price sensitivity stuff will tell you that you're setting yourself up for a few fights. You're going to have your bargain hunters, but they're only going to be a certain size, that segment. And then you're going to have the people who are just kind of sick and tired of their plantar fasciitis, for example, and they'll pay whatever. And then they see you and you cost more than the other. You must be the way to go. So
yeah,
I remember
podiatrist, when I first graduated, she was actually one of our lecturers, and she'd bought somebody else's practice that had been around for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And it was a very general based clinic.
Yeah.
I remember her saying that she bought the clinic and she was so busy with just general work. She went, you know what? I'm going to increase the fees. And she increased them a substantial amount. And she thought by increasing the fees to something like 40%, that will just get rid of so many people, because they'll go, oh, we're not going to pay that. Anyway, she reckons she had to put on somebody else because it got that busy that all of a sudden it was like there was a new sheriff in town, and this person was so much more qualified than the person who was there beforehand, because they were charging more. And therefore, word of mouth got around. And not only was she making more per visit, the quality of the patients that were coming in to see her so she probably did lose a lot of the ones who were just price sensitive, but she gained the people who were not price sensitive.
It is a big rabbit hole, like price anchoring for patients. They'll just look at your price against someone else, and that's how they'll determine if you're better or worse before they've met you.
I definitely agree. So before we finish up, you also help like other researchers, students commercialize products.
Yeah. So
so what's the story with that?
So while the clinical trial was going on, I was actually I was head of sales of a health drink company startup that's now going pretty well. I left that at about 2,500 stores. We got it into in 18 months, so it grew pretty quick. And then I was kind of sitting there, and then the program manager at the time of the University of Sydney's startup accelerator, it's called Incubate, kind of reached out, and he was like, oh, we need someone to kind of advise the startup teams on sales and marketing. And at first I was like, I don't know if I'll be any good. I don't know if I'm a teaching type, kind of thing. And then I did it anyway, just like one day a week, spread out over the whole week, and enjoyed it. And then all of a sudden he left, and they asked me, they said, oh, you keep getting all these good ratings from all the researchers and students that come through. Do you want to lead the whole program? I basically said, well, I'm also doing solutions, so I can only do it, 2 days a week, and they were like, yep. So I was like, awesome. All right, cool. So I manage. So it was actually part of the University of Sydney Student Union at the time. Now it's part of the University of Sydney. They've scooped it up from the union. Basically, we take any student at the University of Sydney, current, or they could have attended the university 20 years ago. Any alumni, any researchers, they just come in and say, I've got this idea, I've done this PhD, whatever it is, and then we put them through a 12-week kind of coursework, crash course. I know we were talking before, there's a lot of things out there which make you feel good. The whole delivery of this program this is how you work things out. Here's some action items that you need to follow. It's hard, it requires discipline. There's very minimal fluff, but it's been going pretty well. So last year I helped, the spectrum's quantum computing physicists, genomicists, through to dating apps. Like, it's just, this broad range of cool things. So, and it's been interesting now. A few podiatrists caught wind of it, or just because we did this, just because I did Solution, they're just like, I've got an idea. How do I do it? So I've had a lot of conversations where in-services have gone over time, just kind of running through, you know, again, pricing, you know, value proposition, all these different little key terms, but not just the fluff, you know, not just, you know, hoo-ha, I'm going to make you feel good. It's like, no, this is how you go work it out. It is a bit tough, but if you do it, you know, you can really get onto something. So
yeah, because what we were talking about was how there's so many, like, just programs in general, that they can run for 12 months or 2 years, or they're just ongoing, they never end. But there's just, because we were talking about coaching programs as well, and I said, I know a few of them that you can do it for 12 months, and at the end of 12 months, when you really look at what you learned in 12 months, there's so much fluff and bullshit and paperwork and boxes to tick and forms to fill in, that at the end of 12 months, you really look and you go, I haven't really learned too much, but the G's have kept me busy. So what you're doing with the incubator, like I mentioned, what I did with the 12-week reboot, is just making it a bit more intense, but making it 12 weeks of stuff at the end of it all. They just go, holy shit, I've now pointed in the right direction on what to do.
No, that's exactly right. I think our number one goal is we don't want them to finish the program and go, what now? You know, it seems like an obvious thing, but looking at a lot of feedback, not just from this program in the past, but other programs and other feedback across, so startup accelerators and incubators, they feel a bit lost at the end. You know, you've got these people, these, you know, for example, the researchers, they're 20, 30 years under their belts of, you know, high quality research, world recognized, you know, in their field. They actually don't know how to start a business or how to get their idea moving. There's a lot of predators out there as well, who take advantage of them, and they don't realize it. So our goal is just to equip them to build their own kind of operational environment. So even if their idea isn't commercialized by the end of it, 12 weeks is pretty short for a quantum computer, for example. You know, they have that environment surrounding them, or they know the methods, how they can, you know, or it's almost like this, you know, just a system so they can keep pursuing it. You know, and what I found is, you know, they feel more trusting and stay in that environment anyway. You don't have to hold them in the environment. They want to stay because they know they can leave and they'll be fine. You know, they just trust you, want to stay part of it. Everyone's growing together. It's quite a nifty little thing.
So if a podiatrist had an idea, say it was just, you know, someone listening to this now, they went, well, I've always had this idea of inventing this, or I've been messing around with this own thing myself. They can't contact you and do the incubator unless they're part of the university. Is that right?
Yeah. So they can't do it unless they're part of USID. Every university has one. Most of them are pretty good, if I'm honest. You know, they all seem to do a good job. You're going to get value out of them. I think everyone's kind of worked out not to stick with the fluff and to give the students and researchers actioned. The other thing I'm doing, I hope I'm allowed to say this on here, just on your end.
You can say what you want.
I'm going to be doing a column. So APOD A, they've asked me to do a monthly column on it. So they saw that I was the program manager. So in all their Stride magazines, just once a month, there's just going to be 300 words on, here's a tip for this month. If you have an idea, this is the next step to do it. Now, for anyone listening, some of the steps may sound very grueling, and I'm going to try and make it so they seem attainable and you can kind of grow and then achieve it, you know, but it is a little bit tough. It isn't as tough as it sounds though. It just looks tough. So I'll be writing some stuff there, but they can also just reach out. You know, we've, you know, more than happy to give advice. I've helped a few ideas kind of work out, you know, their pricing, for example, the manufacturing process. You know, manufacturing is a bit daunting if you've got a physical good and you don't know what to do. So always happy to help.
So if somebody wanted to reach out to you, is there a good email address or a best way you'd like them to contact you? I'm
pretty much available 24/7. Ben at Solushin. So BEN at Solushin, SOLUSHIN.com. That's it will make my burner, my phone beep almost all that's times.
Good. But the thing with it, it's like you said, it may look like there's a lot of hard work, but anything that is worthwhile, you've got to put the work in. So it's like the whole solution thing. You didn't go, let's invent this thing. And 2 weeks later, it was done. And people, I think they're going to get it through their head. They want to be a better podiatrist, you put work in. You want to have a better business, you put the work
Yeah.
in. You can't learn it all yourself. Sometimes you need
Yeah.
a mentor. Sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
Read books, but don't read too many books. This is what we're talking about off air, where some people, they get so bogged down in doing this program, that program, reading this book, listening to 10 podcasts, and they take no action. So I reckon do less and take more action.
Yeah, 100%. I think you're spot on.
So Ben, I want to thank you for coming on the Podiatry Legends podcast. Before we finish up though, have you got one final tip for anybody that's actually listening?
If you've got your own idea, feel free to reach out. I'd love to get the solution on your legs. I understand you're probably sitting there and listening and going, what the hell is he talking about? So please reach out. We can arrange an in-service, arrange for one to get on your legs so you can try it out. And then, if you've got a patient that you're a bit confused on or a bit hesitant, again, reach out. We're not going to aggressively sell to you. We'll work you through our processes so you can understand how the solution would fit in.
Okay. I did have one question. Are they small, medium, large, extra large, or is it one size fits all?
Yeah. So there's 8 variants. So left, right, 4 sizes.
Okay.
But you don't need to buy, say your clinic wants to get set up with them. All you need is to buy a clinical sample of the larges because they fit everyone short term. If their legs are too small for it, it gets a bit uncomfortable after about 30 minutes just because of the folding material. Yeah. But all your patients can experience the short term outcomes by putting on a large, unless they've got huge calves. The XLs don't get bought often, but when they do, it's a big set of legs.
But the way that we used to run things was, I always think if a practice is set up a certain way, if you see a lot of runners, you treat a lot of runners and you have a lot of shin splints, you should probably have one of each size on stock at all time. Invest the money in it. It costs you $1,000 to get set up properly. Yeah. And you've got them there, sell it, order it in as you need it. Yeah. So to me, and it's only $1,000, guys. It's not a huge amount of money. And if you can't afford $1,000, you need to change the way you do things.
Yep. No, I think you're spot on. A lot of the runners we noticed as well drop off on the purchase cycle. So we were talking to a lot of podiatrists. They said, "Oh, we'll give you the solution." They would, talk about ordering it in, and then the runner wouldn't come back. So they've kind of lost that opportunity to sell. What I'm trying to strike a balance of is it's a new thing, so I get it. If, like you said, $1,000, if it's too much for you, maybe reassess what you're doing. To get stocked up, but I'm here to put it on your leg and convince you that it is something worth stocking if you're treating runners. Because it's the dorsiflexion stuff, improving ankle ROM 21% in an hour is what the study showed. While the runners sat on the couch, that's all they had to do. They did dishes, like walked around the house. That's got implication in a lot of injuries. So that's where we're seeing it get used. So runners. A very big market for this device for obvious reasons.
Yeah, and it's probably one of those things, if you've got a business that's set up and you don't see runners, then don't worry about it. Yeah. Then order them in as you need them. But I think if you're seeing a lot of runners, it makes sense to have the product there. Yeah. Yeah, like, have you ever walked into a shop yourself and somebody is selling something and you may heard it advertised, you've heard about it, they've written a blog article about it. You rock up there to go and buy it, they go, "Oh no, we haven't got any in stock. We're waiting for an order to come in." Yep. And you're like, okay, I actually wanted it now. I don't need it in 3 weeks. I want it now. Yep. Yep. And I think if you're got a lot of serious runners coming in and you see shin splints a lot, just have them on stock. Yeah. No, and I'll just let you know too that I'm not being paid to have you on here. So because some people sort of go, I've had people ask me, "Oh, did you only have such and such on because they paid to come on?" No. You can pay me afterwards.
We'll let everyone know as well. The shirt was very cheap. I got this cheap ass shirt sent to me. No, it's a cool shirt. It's actually first wash. Yeah. Actually, no, I haven't washed it yet. It's a really, really nice shirt. So thank you very much. So Ben, I want to thank you for coming on the Podiatry Legends podcast, sharing your knowledge and wisdom, telling us about Solushin medical device, and have an awesome day. Thank you very much.